That's Mark 1:29 through 31. Blessed are the readers and the hearers and doers of the word. You may be seated in the presence of God. Our subject is you can't keep a good woman down. Today we celebrate mothers. I mean that this is the Lord's day. Yes, it's the Lord's day, and the Lord has called us to give honor to whom honor is due. For he called and commissioned us to honor our mothers. So sisters, this is your day. This day goes out to all the mamas, the moms, the grandmas, the muddies, the big mamas, the baby mamas, the aunties, play mamas, step mamas, god mamas, ma, me, matriarchs. It's for all of the mamas. We celebrate you. We laud you. We want you to feel special and appreciated today. We truly thank God for you. Thank God for you. You hold it down for us. You keep us together. You keep us on the path of victory. Sometimes you juggle multiple jobs and side hustles so we can have food on the table and clothes on our backs and shoes on our feet. We would not be who we are without you. The truth is, we wouldn't even be here without you. We were conceived in your womb. We were carried in your belly. We were nurtured by your cells. Everyone is born through. A woman had to conceive. A woman had to give birth. A woman had to experience morning sickness. A woman had to go through labor. A woman had to push through and endure pain. She had to experience discomfort. A woman had to be stretched. We would not be here without you. Church, there would be no Abel without Eve. There would be no Isaac without Sarah. There could be no Jacob without Rebekah. There could be no Joseph without Rachel. There could be no Moses without Jochebed. There could be no Samuel without Hannah. There could be no Jesse without Ruth. There could be no Solomon without Bathsheba. There could be no John without Elizabeth. There could be no Jesus without Mary. There could be nobody without you. We wouldn't be here. No Jada without a Jamie, no Rod Jr. without Shanita, no Ari without Nicole, no Carlia without Carla. We could not be here without you. You can't keep a good woman down. As we look at Mark 1 and verse 29 and 30, I want to talk just for a few moments about the sickness that is experienced. This event is recorded in all three of the synoptic gospels. The wording and emphasis of each is worded a little differently, but the facts are all the same. This is, however, the Gospel of Mark, and in many ways, Mark is a gospel of action. He presents Jesus as the Son of God and places emphasis on the servanthood of Jesus. Mark is writing to a Roman audience who would be offended by the idea of being a servant. But Mark elevates our understanding of being a servant by presenting Jesus as servant of all by giving his life for all of us. Although Jesus is servant, he retains his authority. Mark illustrates the exousia in the original, or the authority of Jesus throughout his gospel. Jesus has authority over evil spirits. He has authority over fever and sickness and religious traditions. He has authority over the Sabbath, over nature, and even over death. Mark presents a Jesus who does not use authority for his own benefit, but for the blessing and deliverance of others. In the text, Jesus is in a city. He's in a place called Capernaum. It is the Sabbath, and Jesus has just encountered a man with an evil spirit in the synagogue. There in the synagogue, it was a building that Jews would use to gather for Sabbath day teaching, prayer, and fellowship. And after Jesus has taught as one having authority and not as the scribes, he cast an unclean spirit, a demon, out of a man. Jesus never spoke to the man. He only spoke to the unclean spirit within the man. The unclean spirit recognized Jesus right away and obeyed his authority to command it. Now the service is over. All the formalities and greetings have ended. Jesus has finished shaking hands in the foyer. Verse 29 says, now as soon as they had come out of the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Jesus obviously is accompanied by these four, and they make what must have been a relatively short distance to the house of Simon and Andrew. This house became something of a headquarters for Jesus when he was in Capernaum. Jesus often did miraculous things in the house. It was in a house that was so crowded that four men tore up the roof and let down a man that was sick with palsy, and Jesus healed him. It was in a house that Jairus' little daughter lay sick, and Jesus went in and healed her. A lot of things happen when Jesus is in the house. But Jesus and these four disciples are on their way to the house to do the same thing we generally do after church. Yeah, they're about to do the same thing that we generally do after church. And Brother Landon, before there was a roof Chris, before there was such thing as Papados or Maggiano's, after church, we would go home to beans and cornbread and cabbage and mac and cheese, fried chicken. But we're fancy now. We're fancy now. They are going to do what we generally do after church. They are going to break bread and share a meal at Simon and Andrew's house. Don't know what the conversation is like. Perhaps Peter is a little nervous, maybe even a little apologetic because his wife wasn't with him at church that day, because unbeknownst to anybody, the mother is at home sick. They are unable to entertain in the usual manner. They don't know what to expect. We don't know about the other disciples for sure, whether they were married or single, but we do know that Peter has a wife. Won't get all into that. That is to say, Peter certainly, as a married man, would not advocate for the vow of celibacy that some religious groups hold dear for those who are in ministry. Peter and Andrew, however, not only brought their friends James and John home with them from the service, but they also brought the Lord home. Oh, church, that's a good example for us to follow. Don't leave Jesus at the church. Don't leave him at church. Take him home with you and let him share in both your blessings and your burdens. In fact, we ought to follow the wisdom of the old song. You ought to take the Lord with you everywhere you go. They making this short walk to Simon and Andrew's house. Verse 30 says, but But, but can be a good thing, or it can be an indication that there's trouble, and there's trouble going on in Simon and Andrew's house. The text says that Simon's wife's mother lay sick with a fever, and they told him about her at once. She has a high fever. The Greek text in the Gospel of Luke indicates that the fever was continuous and perhaps even chronic in nature. She is seriously ill. And they told him about her at once. Peter was a remarkable man. I mean, he was a man of great faith. He had a heart for the Lord. Peter did not have a negative attitude about his mother-in-law like so many. Believe it or not, some men don't really care for their mother-in-law. Have you heard about the question, why did the mother-in-law cross the road? She thought it was a boundary. Some men don't like their mother-in-law. Son asked his father, he said, Dad, what was the name of Adam's mother-in-law? He didn't have a mother-in-law, son, because he lived in paradise. One more, just for good measure. The man came home after visiting his sick mother-in-law. His wife asked how her mother was doing. The man responded, she's getting released in 2 days and moving into our home. Shocked, the wife says, how? That's impossible. When I visited her yesterday, she was on the respirator. I know, said the husband. I was baffled too. But the doctor said we had to prepare for the worst. But Peter's not like those kind of men. He's a good man. He has not a mother-in-law, but he has a mother-in-love. He loves his mother-in-law, and so they tell Jesus that mama is sick. Peter and Andrew, James, and John knew they did not have the power to heal her. Nothing had worked. The fever would not break. Pushing fluids did not work. Acetaminophen and ibuprofen and antibiotics did not work. Corticosteroids did not work. Ice packs and ice baths did not work. Mama is sick. You know she's sick. You know how I know she's sick? Because she didn't go to church. You know, mama's got to be sick if she don't go to church. Because mama don't miss church. Mama is going to church even if she got to ride the bus or catch a ride with somebody else. She's going to the church. But there she is lying in bed, covered in her own sweat. They're constantly having to change the sheets. Mama is too weak to get up. She has no strength. Perhaps aching and in pain. Her appetite is diminished. She's weak. She's losing weight. She can barely talk. Jesus' mama is sick. And only Jesus has the power to heal her. Oh, what a great thing it is that these men have faith in the power of Jesus to heal. That's why you need to have people with faith in your life. Folks of faith will talk to Jesus on your behalf. Church, you need people with water-walking faith, mountain-moving faith, and I know he'll make it some type of way, faith in your life. They got faith that Jesus can heal mama because they just left church. And if nothing else happens in church, your faith ought to get a little stronger having been to church. What happened at church that day was Jesus cast a demon out of a man. Just like he spoke to the demon, they knew that he could speak to the fever. Church, Jesus can speak to whatever is making mama sick. Jesus could command the fever just like he commanded the unclean spirit. If he could do it for that man, I know he can do it for mama. A lot of mamas are sick. They have fevers. They're sick of struggling. They're sick of their love not being reciprocated. I'm preaching. Amen. They sick of men. They sick of lazy and selfish brothers. They're sick because they are forced to carry the load all by themselves. They're sick of being lied to and cheated on. They're sick of being overworked and underpaid. Sisters, y'all ain't saying nothing. They are sick of bailing you out of jail. They are sick with worry. They are sick of telling you the same thing over and over again. They are sick and tired. All they can do is lie down. And the truth is, mama had to be sick just to get some rest and some time off. Some of us need to apologize to mama. We apologize for making you take our work to come up to the school. We apologize for being disrespectful and talking back. We apologize for taking you for granted. We apologize for not thinking about how our decisions and actions impact you. We apologize for not obeying your wise counsel. We apologize for putting you in the position to take on the responsibility of raising our children. Mama, we apologize. But what happens when mama is sick? What happens when she can't perform her normal functions? Who's preparing the meals? Who's getting the kids to school? Who becomes the family Uber driver? Who keeps the family together? What happens when the matriarch and caretaker needs to be taken care of? Who's taking care of mama? Mama birthed you, bathed you, fed you, cared for you, carried you, defended you, believed in you, and encouraged you when nobody else would. Notice where mama is. Mama is in the house. I don't mean any harm. She's not in a nursing home. She is not in a facility. She is not living on her own. Mama is not forgotten about. Mama is in the house. One way or another, we got to take care of mama. And if it's beyond our ability, we can call on Jesus and he will show us the way and give us the strength on how to take care of mama. Mama was sick, but salvation is extended. Notice a portion of verse 31. The text says, so he came and took her by the hand and lifted her up, and immediately the fever left her. Jesus went to mama. Text says he came. It means he approached, he moved toward her. Church, it's good to know that even when you can't go to Jesus, that Jesus will come to you. That he will come to you in your sick room, that he will come and stand beside your sick bed. My God will never leave you nor forsake you. He will walk on water to get you to you. He will come through a storm just to get to you. He will come to you in your time of need, and we serve a God that is never late and always on time. So salvation is extended to mama. Jesus goes to her. He takes mama by the hand. Now he spoke to the demon, but he takes mama by the hand. Mark doesn't record Jesus saying anything. Now, Luke says that he rebuked the fever, but Mark doesn't record any words because, again, he is about action. And in fact, Mark frequently records how Jesus came into contact with or touched those who were sick and infirmed. In Mark 1:41, Jesus touched a leper and cleansed him. In Mark 5:41, he took Jairus' daughter by the hand. He touched her. In Mark 6:5, he could do no mighty works there except he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. In Mark 7:32 and 33, they brought to Jesus a man who was deaf and had an impediment in his speech, and they begged him to put his hand on him. And Jesus took the man aside from the multitude, put his fingers in the man's ears, and he spat and touched the man's tongue. Mark 8:23. He took a blind man by the hand and led him out of town. And when he had spat on his eyes and put his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. And he looked and said, I see men like trees walking. Then Jesus put his hands on his eyes again and made him look up. And he was restored and saw everyone clearly. There is something healing about the Master's touch. Multitudes of sick folk would desperately reach out just to touch the hem of his garment. It has been demonstrated that there is healing in touch, even among human beings. It has been demonstrated that proper physical touch makes you healthier, that hugs, massages, and holding hands reduces stress while building and boosting our immune system. Another song we used to sing is, Jesus, hold my hand. There's something about his touch. Mama was laying prostrate and sick with fever. Jesus gripped her in his hands and lifted her up. Literally, Jesus raised her from a lower position to a higher position. Somebody needs to stop waiting on other people to elevate you and let the Lord lift you up. But Jesus can take you higher than anything you thought possible. We often want elevation, but we don't want to be lying prostrate on our sick bed. Don't let your situation stop your elevation, because sometimes the Lord brings separation before he brings elevation. You will have to suffer. You will go through some things. You will hurt. You will be uncomfortable. But God is working even when you don't see him. Does anybody know that when you're down, Jesus can lift you up? Is there at least one good woman in here brave enough to testify that you were down but the Lord lifted you up? I'm looking for just one good woman that knows that God can lift you up. I'm looking for a praying Patty, a praising Paulette. I'm looking for a worshiping Wanda, a testifying Tessie, a faithful Fatima. I'm looking for a loving Lucille, a God-fearing Gertrude, an overcoming Olivia, an audacious Ann, and a born-again Bernadette, to tell somebody that when you're down, the Lord can lift you up. The text says that the fever, the burning fire, the fever left. Again, Luke says that Jesus rebuked the fever. Facts are the same. The fever that she had is gone. The fever left. It was gone. I looked up, Brother Roosevelt, I looked up the word left. It's a Greek term that sometimes is used to mean or translate forgiveness. But primarily it has the idea of departing, give up, sending away, cancel, and let go. Let go. The Lord removed the feverish sickness. The Lord can make it leave. For anybody who feels stuck and sick, I want you to know that the Lord has the power to send it away. That he has the ability and the authority to make it let go of you. Anybody in here ever had a fever? You ever been sick? Like a lot of y'all, I had that COVID thing. And, you know, I had the flu before. But when COVID hit me, I was praying and calling out on the Lord. Don't judge me. I almost was speaking in tongues. I mean, I was sweating and carrying on. And from the couch to the bed to the floor. And it took a while to recover. Anybody else know you've been sick before and it took a while to recover? I mean, the symptoms are gone, but the weakness and the fatigue is still there. It's hanging on. Watch this. She has been sick with fever. They just got home from church. They ain't did nothing, because as soon as they got in the house, they said, look, mama's back here sick. Jesus goes back. Immediately he goes back. No treatments, no medication, they didn't even say a prayer. They didn't even say a prayer. Nothing. Jesus goes, takes her by the hand, lifts her up, and she just got up. She didn't need time to recover, regain her strength. She just got up. As if she had never been sick. You heard people say before, you know, you don't look like what you've been through. This is an example of that. Because she don't look like what she's been through. She gets up, after being sick, you still sometimes will take a few more days. And if your job, you got enough sick time and PTO time, you'll take even more days to recover, to rehydrate, to gather yourself. But when Jesus evicted the fever, he also infused her with power. Some of y'all don't know when to shout. Not only does he remove the pain, he replaces the pain and the weakness with power and strength. Now, what's the amazing thing? What are they going to the house for? They done left church. They're going home to have a good kosher meal at Peter and Andrew's house. Mama been sick. Peter and Andrew been at church. Mama been Peter's wife been taking care of mama. Ain't nobody cooked no meal. Ain't no fire been burning. No deep fry, no air fryer, nothing been burning. So don't look at me like that. I mean, I know it sounds like most of our houses. Ain't nothing Ain't nothing burning. Well, watch the text. And she served them. And she served them. She just got up out of her sick bed. And she is serving them. She got up, Luke says, at once and began to wait on them. She was down, but the Lord lifted her up. It looked like she might have been down for the count, but the Lord had other plans. Just as things looked so glim and glory, glory stepped in, and the Lord began to do his work. And someone said that the stars shine the brightest when the sky is the darkest. Mama is healed. The fever is gone. She does not pause to praise. She does not dance. There is no record of her saying thank you, but her actions speak louder than words. Mama is always thinking of others. Mama gets up and gets to work. Mama is right back on assignment. The first thing she does is serve them. That's the first thing she does. There's a message for us in this, for those of us who have been saved, those of us who've been healed, those of us who've been delivered. We were saved that we might serve. That's why we were saved. We were saved to serve. A lot of people have really missed this point about discipleship, because for them it's all about getting theirs. And once they get their blessing, they are done. You see, some people come to worship, they get their blessing, and they don't think about the Lord again until they want or need another blessing. Oh, but this woman is a great example. She demonstrates that we are healed by the Lord to become helpers. We are saved to become servants. We are blessed to become a blessing. We are delivered so that we might deliver others. We are loved so that we might love others. We are forgiven that we might become forgivers of others. We are restored that we might restore others. We are repaired that we might help repair others. We are taught that we might become teachers. We are redeemed so that we might be redeemers. We are evangelized so that we might become evangelizers. Jesus gave us victory so we could help others become victors. He showed us mercy so we could extend mercy to others. He gave us grace so that we could give grace to others. He gave us power that we might empower others. He gave us strength that we might give strength to others. He comforted us so that we could comfort others in their troubles. He gave us peace so that we could make peace with others. He gave us joy so we could give joy to others. He gave us resources so we could sow into others. He made us well so that we could become worshipers. We are saved so that we might serve. I know it's a cliche. Say preachers, they have an introduction, 3 points, and a poem. And I'm going to keep true to that today. It's a poem that most of you are familiar with by one of our favorite matriarchs, Maya Angelou. You may write down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise up from a past that's rooted in pain. I rise, I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. Rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. You can't keep a good woman down. Truly, with all of our sincerity of heart, we do thank God for all of our mothers and those who are in that role and relationship, who have contributed and sacrificed and poured into us as women of faith, pouring into the generations. We thank God for you. We honor you. We appreciate you on this day and every day. And we want to extend an invitation to anyone who may desire to be saved, to come into a right relationship with God. I know it's getting outdated and old-fashioned in our world to believe in Jesus, to believe in the Bible, to believe in Christianity. I know it's old-fashioned. I know it's getting outdated by so many people, so large segments of our world today. But I still believe in God. You can call it foolish all you want to. I'll be a fool for Christ. You say, well, you know, they want us to be able to prove God's existence. They want us to prove it. Then they say we can't prove it. They say, well, you know, believing in God is like believing in an Easter bunny, fairy tales. That's what they say. Well, no, that's not the same. As far as I know, I never heard the Easter bunny say that he created all things. Never heard that. Never heard the Easter bunny say that we're made in his image and his likeness. My God is an intelligent God. He is the uncaused cause. Even if we were to posit to you the erroneous idea that there is no God, the idea of God is worthy of faith. That he is eternal, that he has no beginning and no end. That there is something beyond this world. That there is hope beyond this life. You know, a lot of smart people in the world. A lot of smart people. And thank God I've never gotten so smart that I stopped believing in Jesus. And so I'm inviting you to Jesus today. I still believe that he died, that he was buried, that he rose on the third day with all power in his hand. They say, well, there ain't no evidence that he, well, over there in Jerusalem, there's an empty tomb. They say, well, how you know he was there? That's the whole point, it's empty. He got up. And we got more evidence from eyewitnesses that saw him after his death, burial, and resurrection. We got more eyewitness testimony about Jesus' resurrection than we do about Augustus Caesar. And we believe he lived. Amen. I'm inviting you to Jesus today. If you need prayer, if you want to give your life to the Lord, you can do that. We're going to stand in just a moment. We're going to sing a song of invitation. That is your signal. That is your opportunity to come down the aisles. We will take your confession of faith, your repentance of sin, your acknowledgement of your faith in Jesus Christ, and baptize you this morning for the remission of sin. If you need prayer, restoration, you can respond as well as together we stand and sing.
What a fellowship, what a joy, oh, we are leaning on the everlasting arms, and what a